A reflection for Septuagesima Sunday. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever. From today's Gospel, the parable of the master and the labourers. When therefore they were come, that came about the 11th hour, they received every man a penny. But when the first also came, they thought that they should receive more. And they also received every man a penny. And receiving it, they murmured against the master of the house, saying, These last have worked but 1 hour, and thou hast made them equal to us that have borne the burden of the day and the heats. But he answering said to one of them, Friend, I do thee no wrong. Did thou not agree with me for a penny? A few reflections on this parable. First of all, should we be bothered about the reward others get? In our normal human activity, this goes on, doesn't it? But rather than taking an example from modern industrial relations, something from history from the early 1500s, when the flagship, the Mary Rose, sank off Portsmouth. Well, the difference in salaries was considerable. An admiral received 20 shillings a day, whereas the average sailor received that sum in a month. But what about when it comes to spiritual rewards? Should we occupy ourselves with whether it is just for 1 penny, one person to get the same as another, despite the difference of the amount of work they have done, indeed the suffering and the heat of the day, in the vineyard of the Lord? Well, there is a reward in heaven. That's very important. In Matthew 6 we read, Take heed that you do not your justice before men to be seen by them, otherwise you shall not have a reward of your Father who is in heaven. So it's perfectly good to be seeking a reward. Incidentally, that's a rather important message. Sometimes a pious person will come to me and say, when I say to them, Thank you very much for whatever you've done, they say, No, don't say anything. I don't want to lose my reward in heaven. It's a pious thought, isn't it? And indeed, another thought is the link to suffering. In Luke 6 we read, Blessed shall you be when men shall hate you, and when they shall separate you, and shall reproach you, and cast out your name as evil for the Son of Man's sake. Be glad in that day and rejoice, for behold, your reward is great in heaven. The point in this parable is that the master is granting salvation to the workers, that is 1 penny. No one gets partially saved or doubly saved. It's the same for all. And of course, that's not to say that our work in God's vineyard inevitably results in salvation. Faith and work go together. And the master says to the grumbler, Is it not lawful for me to do what I will? Another correction we need to make is that it's not an individualistic thing totally either. Of course, our salvation is our own affair. But using an image elsewhere of fields white unto harvest, Jesus says that he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together. And herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth. I send you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labour. Other men laboured, and you are entering into their labours. So there is a message of our cooperation in the vineyard of the Lord, in the work of salvation of all. That's the right spirit, not that of the grumbling workers in the vineyard in the parable from today's gospel. The second thing to point out really is, are we idlers standing in the marketplace? Maybe we're putting the world to rights with our mates. We're leaning on the farm gate, or perhaps we're sitting in a deck chair with a cool drink under the trees while the sun beats down. And we could be there all day until the sun goes down and it's time to go home. Idlers. Does the Master have to seek us out to do his will? Does he have to prize us from the easy life? Or indeed, prize us from the smartphone or the big screen that takes up all our time? Perhaps even then we might blank him. And this is related to the attitude of, well, what's the point? The heresy that we're all going to heaven is so convenient for our slothful natures. It's an ideal theology of the idle. The neighbor you haven't talked about your faith with, even though they've shown some curiosity, that neighbor, isn't going to be there forever. This reminds us of another aspect of this parable. The whole of life is summed up in one day. The 3rd hour, the 6th hour, the 9th hour, and the 11th hour. That neighbor who you've ignored, you couldn't be bothered to have an argument with. You couldn't even speak to them about the things of God. What hour are they at in their lives? It doesn't matter if you only plant the seed. God will find someone else to do the reaping. We are part of a team. But don't immediately think that it's someone else's job to answer the questions of those who come to us or who are open to our discussion. No, don't pass it on to the priest. Why can't you answer yourself? Perhaps you think, well, I might get it wrong. You may do, but God will correct that. And at least when you dip your toe in, then you can begin to use that store of knowledge of the faith. And if you find that the store of knowledge of your faith is, a bit lacking, do something about it. There are plenty of works of apologetics. You can always look something up in the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Standing idle in the marketplace, how do you use your leisure time? Well, of course, after a hard day's work, it's not entirely surprising if we want to relax a little bit, recover ourselves. But is there ring-fenced precious me time above and beyond? Time that we could be generous with, sharing with others, allowing your good witness to permeate the social groups in which you mix. A final point. Some Christians don't believe in deathbed conversions. We Catholics do. Here in this parable, we have the 11th hour arrivals. They are the people perhaps that we've written off because they'll never change. There may be a relative that is set in their ways, too selfish, never shown an interest in spiritual things, once had an argument with me, and never have I dared to mention spiritual things again. Why not go into the market square and challenge them? Who knows? They might be thinking about their dwindling days on this earth. They might have had some bad news from the doctor. They might be regretting the wild oats they sowed, the wasted years. Oh, there's still time. What time of day are you going to leave the idlers and march out to God's vineyard? Yes, I had a late vocation. I've never regretted it for a moment. Wonderful to find that I've responded to God's call. God may not ask you to make an upheaval in your exterior life, but you need to do so at least internally. Realign your values and perspectives towards that vineyard. The grapes are hanging down. They're waiting for you to play your part. Well, rewards, idling, leaving it to the last minute. The focus is always the same. Souls to save. Let's show our love for our neighbours, for those close to us, for those we've known for many years. Let's get into the vineyard, whatever the time of day. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.